here today. It's talked a little bit about her last week, and I want to introduce you. This is my friend Rani Wheeler, aka oh my gosh, Rianda Sanchez, Rianda Wheeler. I mean, she's married now, but she'll always be a Sanchez to me because we've known each other for so long. We figured it out.
28 years.
28 years we've known each other now. So, the purpose of this whole podcast is to bring hope and know that there's hope out there. And Rainey has an incredible story, and we're going to get to that in part 2. But part 1, we just kind of want to set up just
The fun stuff.
The fun stuff, yeah. Where we met, how we met. I'll just put this out there. We were in an intimate relationship. She was my girlfriend at one point in life in our 20s, and we had
Not safe for work, by the way.
What?
This video is not safe for work.
Oh, yeah. Well,
do not play this at work.
Yeah, if it's titled Unfiltered, you probably don't want to play it anywhere
that's
out
true.
loud. So, I mean, there's that. But a little bit about just the history. You knew that last week I talked about that I had started dancing in a club, and that's actually where Rainey and I met. And I'll let her tell you a little bit of detail about what she was doing and like how she got started in that club. We're not going to tell you what club it is, but a little bit of how she got started. But I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being so brave, because it makes all the difference in the world when we share our stories, no matter what that story is, because the hope is that it reaches someone else and it gives them hope. And the coolest thing is, I was sitting here right before we started, and I always just kind of take a deep breath and ask God to give me the words. And I opened my eyes, and you were sitting there with your eyes closed praying too. Mm-hmm. And so I just find that so, like, we have evolved so much in our lives.
Oh my goodness.
Like, we were train wrecks, right?
Beyond train wrecks. Like, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you getting to the club, what you were doing, because I shared with them how I ended up dancing. So how did you end up dancing?
Well, I was a student at TJC. I was living in the dorms. I was a trust fund child, receiving a nice check from my grandmother every month for whatever, books, food. Mm-hmm. And every weekend I had to drive from down 150. Can I say that?
Okay. Down this road.
I had to drive down this road to go back home to where I lived, and it was scratch that. And I would pass this place of entertainment, a gentleman's club every weekend. And I was in a relationship that I had been in since my junior year in high school. We wanted to get married, and my mom said, go to college for a year. Okay, fine, but I'm coming home every weekend.
Right.
So we did, and so that relationship failed. My mom knew it would, and there was some betrayal, and I was devastated. So this would begin years of serious rebellion in my life against everything. Mm-hmm. And so after that relationship failed, I started dabbling in drugs. I was hanging out with the people that boyfriend hated. Mm-hmm. And so the club was just like a magnet.
Sure.
Like I was like, what is going on?
You shouldn't be doing.
What is going on in there? Oh, sorry. I have to know. I have to. So I had sprained my ankle. I don't know. Anyway, in one week, and I just stopped and went in. And I just wanted to check it out. And they were like, oh yeah, come on in.
Of course they were.
Come on in. Yeah. So I did. And I was dancing the next weekend.
Nice.
That soon got out amongst my family, and I was cut off from my trust fund, dropped out of college. I was like, well, I don't need your money. I can do this on my own. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same happened for me. I mean, I had the whole trust fund. Like I was at TJC going to school. And that's the funny thing is like, it's interesting how it starts for a lot of us. You know, we're in school and we get into that. And then we're like, okay, nobody's talking to me now. So screw y'all. I don't need you. Right. I'm making bank.
I am making bank.
I'm making more money.
I don't need your $1,000 check a month.
Right.
I can make that in a night.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So you ended up dating my roommate.
Apparently. Don't have a lot of memory of that.
Yeah. So my roommate was Chris, and him and Rani were dating, talking. I mean, whatever.
He was pierced. He had long hair. He was the opposite of everything my family.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so I'm sure that's why I latched on there, just because.
Probably, yeah. Because he was kind of a rebel for sure.
Super tall.
Yeah, yeah, and a good guy.
Oh, super good guy.
Yeah,
I was 5'11", so anyone 6'2" or over was like
ideal.
Yeah.
So we were. I had seen you dance several times, and we weren't really friends in the club.
You weren't nice to me. You didn't give me the attention I thought I deserved.
I was a big fish in a little pond at that time and thought my shit didn't stink. Yeah. And it actually really didn't at that point. Cause
right.
I ran the show there.
Yeah.
So
I took over.
You did. After I left, yeah, you totally took over. And so I'd seen you dance a couple of times and I always thought you were really pretty and the interesting thing is, I was intimidated by you because you were so tall, right? And you just didn't. I mean,
with heels on, I was
with heels on. Yeah, you're like 6'4". I mean, that's like freaking tall. And I try not to drop the F-bomb on here, but I mean, and I'm not going to. But I mean, you were freaking tall. I mean, for me, I'm a tall girl. You put me in heels, and I'm 6 foot. Right.
Yeah.
And if I'm 6 foot and I'm still looking up to you, that's a little intimidating. So I always thought it was interesting, this story that I'm telling.
Yeah.
I walked back into the office one day and you were sitting there in a chair and you said, you were just sitting there and I walked up and I was like, so this still makes her blood boil, by the way. Watch how mad she's fixing to get. I said, so I intimidate you, huh?
I'll never forget that.
And I was just being a bitch. I mean,
and you were so good at it.
I was really good at it. Like I actually had a sticker.
So sorry.
I had a sticker on the back of my car that said, "That's Miss Bitch to you." I mean, that's literally how I drove around like that. And so the thing is that Chris is the one who told me
because I had told Chris.
Yeah, you told Chris, and Chris
and I felt betrayed beyond measure. Like,
yeah. Oh, you were pissed.
I was very upset.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, and I talked about a little bit last week about how bisexuality was a thing for me, and I had always been, I'd always been attracted to women.
Right.
And I talked about how I was confused about my sexuality the first time I ever danced for someone that was a female, right? And so screwing with you was fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I bet.
You're a little bit younger than me, not by much, but you were new, you were fresh meat in the club, right?
Right.
So I remember we became friends. We started talking, and Chris and I were roommates, so we hung out at your house sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'll let you tell the story about the table.
Well, I don't know. I don't remember. Last night we were talking, and I realized that there's a lot. Things are hazy because I was indulging in some sort of illicit drug, usually, or alcohol.
Right.
But I do remember you were over that night, and I had made up my mind that I would have you. And that was all there was to it. And so I had been experimenting
with a woman.
And I had been experimenting for a while, but I don't even remember. I was telling Allison last night, I don't remember the first woman I was with, which is kind of upsetting to me. But anyway, so yeah. You what?
Remember the first woman I was with.
I know you do. It was me. So that night I decided that I was going to have you, and that was it. And so I proceeded to drink some tequila. I don't know. I tried to get you to drink.
Yeah, I'm not a tequila.
She wasn't really a drinker really back then.
No.
And I was just getting started. Yeah, we did a lot of cocaine.
We
Yeah. I was just getting started on my, fun stuff back then. And I remember chasing you around my living room coffee table because I was going to have you. And once I'm just like now in my life, once I make my mind up, it's done.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sure.
So I did have you.
Well, and there's more points to that story too, because you chased me around the table, and I remember thinking, what is about to happen? Like this is going to happen. And
when I say chasing, don't think of like. I don't want. I'm trying to.
You were pursuing me around the table. I was
pursuing you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was walking around the table, and you were walking behind me, and you were like You were trying to intimidate me, which we both intimidated each other. We're both I believe so. Very strong.
I had to have you because I needed to conquer this.
I don't think I've ever heard you put it that way.
But that's what it was. It was a conquering. Yeah.
So and that was big at the time because I was kind of big shit for you to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's kind of like if you go to prison, you're supposed to like beat up the biggest person there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was doing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kind of.
Okay, makes sense. So we're sitting on a couch, and I was dating a guy at the time, and
which I had no regard for. I did not care.
Yeah, you didn't care. And I remember I was like sitting on the couch, and we smoked like the biggest doobie I'd ever seen in my life. It was like the size of a cigar. I don't even know who rolled it.
I don't know. It was large.
It was huge. And so we're really high, and then next thing I know, I can't figure out if it's Zach's hands on me or if it's your hands on me. And then you kissed me. Mm-hmm. And then I left Zach sitting on the couch.
You did.
And you and I went into the bedroom. And I'm not going to go into
obviously,
the details, but it was one of the sweetest experiences I've had sexually. Probably. I mean, there's just a big difference between being with a woman and being with a man.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. Yeah. So it was probably one of the sweetest moments in my life. And you took very good care of me, and you made sure that I was okay and I wasn't uncomfortable. And then once everything settled and got quiet, you hear this knock on the door, right? And Chris, whom she is dating, who is my roommate, is standing at the door with a tray, and it has 2 Sprites and 2 lit cigarettes in an ashtray, because I smoked back then.
Yeah.
And it was
like our own little butler, yeah.
And he had just this shit-eating grin on his face too.
Of course, because he's been out there.
Yeah, listening, and we left like a whole room of dudes.
Yeah, we did.
Like I remember at one point looking back after.
I wonder if they were at the door, like
maybe like with their ear to the door, totally. Yeah. But I always wondered, like I remember looking back at one point, and these dudes' jaws, like after you kissed me, these dudes' jaws were like on the floor. And when we came out of the room, Zach was gone. Like he
left. Yeah,
he totally left.
Well, it's more common to see that these days, but in 1994, 95,
yeah,
I think it was probably a little more risque back then.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's how.
And I was putting on a show.
Oh well,
that was the point to intimidate them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. but it ended up turning into a relationship.
It did.
And we were together for a while, but the struggle for us is at the end of the day, yes, we're bisexual, but at the end of the day, it was like, okay, you hold me. No, now you hold me. No, now you hold me. And
Did
we're
not
like,
work.
screw it, I'm going to Bob's house. You know what I'm saying?
We needed a man.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we wanted to be with a man.
Yeah.
We just enjoyed the loving sweetness of being with a woman.
Because neither one of us had really had a lot of that sexual experiences that
no
were
sweetness.
Sweet and loving.
No, none.
Yeah. That was, I mean, that just brings like, I don't know, just
ultimately we just want to be loved.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's everybody's end game at the end of the day, right? So I think that's why we both, you're happily married now. I'm happily married now. We're both married to men. And, I mean, I still look at chicks and I'm like, damn, she's hot.
We can appreciate the woman form.
Absolutely.
But that's not we grew out of it. I don't know.
I don't know if I grew out of it.
I don't know if grow out of it is the term.
Can I have a unicorn? I'm just kidding.
Right. Conversation from last night. So, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right word. I'm just in a different place.
Yeah,
we evolved.
We evolved.
That's
we
better.
Evolved into where we are comfortable being now.
Right.
So there's a little bit of so you see what happened was there was this party that I had at my house, and this house is the same house that I've talked about where my dog was hit by a car in front of me or truck in front of me, and my whole life changed, right?
We just passed that.
We just drove by that house, and
that's the first time I've seen that house since you lived there.
Yeah, in like 20 years. Yeah, 25 years.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I drive by that house every time coming here. And so it's a reminder, right? And it puts me in this place that's not a very good place. So what I've started doing on my way here is once I pass that house, I play one of my favorite songs, which is Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Good Vibrations. And it just kind of pumps me up.
Yeah.
It's just
I can't believe we're friends.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's a real cheesy song, but like, can you feel it, baby? I can too. I mean, Marky Mark. I've always had a crush on him.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like Mr. Mark
when you're horizontal, right?
Yeah. The only short man I would date.
Yeah, the only short man. Okay, so we're at this party at this house, in my house, and Rani comes to the party, and
I don't know where you're going here.
Oh, and this guy walks in, and he's the most beautiful.
Oh, I know where you're going.
And he's like the most beautiful guy in the whole world. Like hot, like I mean, 6'2", 180, built like a brick shit house,
kind of long
blonde hair, blue eyes. He was like out of a.
I didn't typically like blondes, video. But he was hot.
Me either. But yeah, he was hot. He was kind of sandy blonde. Anyway, so I just look at her and I'm like, and we both give each other the same look, right? The same look.
I shall have him.
I shall have him. So I just looked at her and I said, okay, here's the deal. We're not going to fight over him. We're just going to share him. That's what's going to happen. So that ensued that experience. And bless his heart, we were both such intimidating women. We shall have you. Like, this is, you know, like we scared the shit out of him.
Poor guy.
Bless it. He could not perform, and we kicked him out.
We did. We asked him to leave.
We asked him
not so not so nicely.
No, we weren't nice about it. I mean, that dude left with his head between his tail between his legs. Bless. I mean,
I had no problem kicking somebody out back then.
No, I didn't have a problem with that either. But now I look back and I'm thinking, God, I treated somebody like that. You know,
terrible.
And so about a month later, I'm at this bar, and turns out that the reason he was there is because he was the cousin of Zach, right? He was the cousin of the guy that I was dating that left. Right. Yeah. That whole, see, this is all circled together, right? And so I see him at the bar. I'm trying not to say names of places, but
No.
I can say names of people. And I called you. I went behind the bar because Zach and John were bartenders there, and I went behind the bar and I was like,
Ask permission.
Yeah, I was like, hey, you remember that dude that we kicked out the other night, like a month ago? She's like, wait, what? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. And I'm like, so he's here at the bar, and I think I shall have that. And she's like, go ahead, because we were in a relationship at that time, and it was an open relationship, but
Absolutely.
we always made sure that
open
we were
men wise, not open
women wise, but open men wise. Yeah, because at the end of the day, like I said, we would be together and then we would go be with a boyfriend. Yeah. It just was. And it worked out that we were both okay with that. Like, there was no jealousy with that. It just was what it was. And so to be that young and figure that out. So I met I met this guy, and I don't even remember driving home that night, but I took him back to my house and things happened, and then we ended up dating and seeing each other a little bit. And then I ended up meeting him at a hotel. There was a 4-pack of Purple Passion involved.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. 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 Like, he lived in Houston. I lived in Tyler, and it was like a middle point in Livingston, Texas, at this like little hotel that we had seen driving back and forth. And then, we hung out and things happened and the condom broke and he didn't tell me. And I was clean at that point. Like, Drake had been hit.
Yeah.
I was clean at that point. I wasn't doing drugs. I was drinking a little bit here and there, but I was clean drug wise. And I got pregnant with Brighton that night. And Brighton is the only reason that I'm sober, right? He's the only reason I stayed sober, because I had a kid. I had to stay sober, right? So that's how. And I had to explain this to Brighton the other day. He's like, so how exactly did you and my dad meet? And I'm like, oh,
I can't believe he never asked you before.
He's never asked me.
It's shocking to me.
I know.
Because Nadia has asked. She asked a long time ago.
Yeah. And Nadia is
my daughter.
So that's how Shane came into the picture with me, and kind of stayed in the picture. And I haven't gotten into that yet, and I'm not really going to. So Brighton was born. And then and then you were dating someone, and I would come into town, and Brighton was little, and I would find a babysitter and we would go out.
Jimmy.
Yeah. So that period in life. So we fast forward a little bit. I'm out of the club because I had just had a baby and whatnot. I hadn't come back to the club.
And I was still there.
And you were still at the club. Yeah. And so that's where you took over once I left. It became your domain.
It did.
Which I think is, I couldn't have left it in better hands.
I'll take that as a compliment.
That was a huge compliment. Yeah. No. The things that we have been through, and that we're still sitting here together 28 years later is huge. I mean, it's just huge for both of us. It tells how far both of us have come. Right. So we're at this bar one night, and it's another bar, not the bar where I met Shane. And, yeah.
If you haven't removed your children, please do.
Yeah. Your children should not be here for this. So, golly.
Let me say that.
Yeah.
Getting out of the house, unless I was going to work at the club, was very difficult for me in this time, because I was with a man, and I use that word very loosely, that was
abusive.
Horribly abusive. And so I was
emotionally abusive, physically abusive, all of the
sexually
things.
abusive. So I was very afraid. He had allowed me to go, right? And I was afraid I had to be back by a
He
certain.
allowed you to go out with me for like 2 hours. We had like a 2-hour time frame.
Right, to
and
this
he
bar.
knew our relationship previous.
And we were at a bar that he frequented, and he knew everyone there.
Right.
So,
sneaky little shits we were.
Yes, we were. I don't know if we had a drink or two, probably a drink or
Oh, we had a few.
yeah. And then
and the attraction was always there between us, even when we weren't together. There was always an attraction.
Yeah, we weren't in a relationship at this point.
No, we were not.
But I was still absolutely in love with you.
But I shall have you.
I shall have you. Yeah. And so I'll let you proceed with what happened.
Are you sure you don't want to tell the rest of it?
I feel like my face is about to burn off. So go ahead.
Okay, so we go. I pull my car around the back of this bar, and I remember like us getting in the back seat of the car, and I put the car seat, Brighton's car seat, up in the front seat, so we had more room
to talk.
Yeah, whatever we were doing.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of it, right? There was still so much of an attraction. I was single at the time. You weren't, but you weren't in a great relationship. So it was hot, steamy, loving, like the whole 9 yards, right? We had steamed up the windows.
The windows were, yeah. That happens.
And then you hear, ma'am. And it was the police. We rolled down.
They were not thrilled with us at that point.
Well,
he was not. He called back up.
He was not thrilled, but he was in shock that he just caught 2 chicks behind a bar in the back seat of a car, right? And he was like, "What are y'all doing?" And then you were like, "I got to go pee." You had to pee, and you were like, "I got to go pee. I'm gonna go behind this dumpster," and I'm like, "He's gonna arrest you if you go pee in public behind the dumpster." I remember that part. Anyway, so he called back up, and there ended up being like 6 police cars back there because they just all had to see these 2 chicks that got busted making out in the backseat of a car. And we ended up talking to the officers. We told them where we worked and told them a little bit about our story. And then I'm
panicking.
You're panicking because you were really worried about the time because you only had a short period. You had to be back by a certain time.
Or
I'll let you take the rest of it.
Or I was going, there was probably going to be, I was probably going to get my ass beat.
Yeah.
So we talked to this guy, and I told this for the first time ever, told a police officer that I was literally going to be beaten if this came out, or, I told him, and he gave me a fake ticket,
a fake speeding
ticket, to give to Jimmy, so he knew what the holdup was.
Yeah, so he knew why you were late, that you had a legit reason why you were late.
Right.
I mean, that right there speaks so many, like, it screams out of a freaking megaphone, what the heck, right?
It was my normal.
That was your normal. And it's just crazy. So that was.
But it's a good story.
It is a great story. It's a great story. Here's the thing. We had a lot of fun. And I don't know. We're going to do this in 2 different parts because I don't know how far I am in, like 30 minutes in. Somebody will give me a sign shortly as soon as I hit 30 minutes. But I want to break this up. But I also want you to share your story because there's so much more to your addiction and to the abuse. And I talked about in the last podcast how most of us girls there came from some
trauma,
sexual
childhood
abuse, childhood, daddy issues, all the whole 9 yards,
just like what I told you this morning in the bathroom.
So
childhood trauma.
So say that what you, because I want that to kind of lead into what we're going to talk about next.
Childhood trauma is the gateway to addiction. It is the gateway to emotional issues. It is the gateway to self-destructive behavior. It starts with childhood trauma.
Yeah. And it's interesting you said marijuana and all that.
That's not the gateway.
That's not the gateway to
No,
it.
childhood trauma is.
So yeah,
And almost all of us that were dancers, we had childhood trauma.
yeah. And can I just say we were real badass dancers?
We
Like,
were
I mean, here we are at 40,
performers.
47 and 46 years old. And
I still have dreams about dancing.
oh, I still hear songs and I can picture you on stage.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I still have dreams like that I've forgotten my dance bag. I don't have any shoes. I forgot my tea bag. Whatever. Yeah. But mostly I show up with nothing to wear.
Yeah. And that's the thing is during that time we had fun. We
did.
We had a lot of fun. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening, but there was a lot of fun. And it was some of the best of times. It was some of the worst of times. Yeah. It was some of the
good memories. A lot of stuff I don't remember, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have figured out that. Yeah. But I was in a total haze. I was so messed up.
Yeah. Total haze.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was so messed up too. I mean, we were both so selfish. We were the most selfish people.
Oh my goodness.
Super narcissistic, super selfish. And the fact, like I said, that we've grown to this point has been crazy. So I want everybody to hear the rest of your story. So I'm going to pause for a minute so we can cut things off and go to part 2. But thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
I can't wait to hear what's next. Y'all better not miss what's coming next because we just gave you all the goodies, and maybe we should have given you the goodies last, but please come back and listen to Rani's story because it's pretty incredible. So peace out. I need to go ahead and shout out to Kimber Creek Media for all of their beautiful setup and recording studio that we have the pleasure of spending time with today. You can find this podcast on it's Allison Unfiltered on YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Oh my gosh, there's so many of them. Spotify, the whole 9 yards. So check us out, and we'll see you later. Peace out.